welcome to another one of our little chats, and today I am joined by Newman. He is the County Councillor for the Felixstowe Division, and I've probably missed a little bit of that title out, but he's also the County Council person responsible for the education sector. Have I got that right?
Education and young people.
Education and young people. There's so many titles, that's the trouble. Thank you for coming in, Graham. It's a pleasure to see you.
It's like Panasonic. A Panasonic product number, isn't it? It just doesn't mean a thing to anybody else except us.
Put the little letters behind it. Obviously, ahead of some elections coming up.
Yes, so we're getting geared up for those now.
It's not long now, is it?
Well, it was a month yesterday. A month from yesterday. It's the 2nd of May.
But you found a little bit of time to come in and have a chat with me about. Oh God, blimey, we haven't seen each other for a while now, have we? So there's a lot to catch up on. I have in fact got a list as usual. Shall we start with the children?
Yes, by all means do.
Start with the education sector. That has come into the limelight a little bit recently. We're tending to sort of focus on immigration more at the moment. But I understand that there's an initiative raising the bar. Have I got that right?
Well, raising the bar was something which we started last year, actually, and that was really in response, initially, I think, to employers saying children coming into the workplace are not actually prepared for employment at all. And some quite bizarre stories that you hear from people who've been running companies for years, that children joining when they're 16, 17, can't write an email, they're not nice to customers, they don't seem to understand that in a business, it's not a question of what the employer can do for you, it's what you can do for the business to make it better, you know. I mean, it doesn't matter how, at what level you're contributing, but it should always be about, how can we make this firm do better, produce a better product, seem like it gives good service, whatever it is, And instead you get young people saying, well, when's half term going to be, and things like this. And quite bizarre stories I have heard. But I mean, the sad end of that is this. I remember BT had a scheme for apprentices. They had 180 places they wanted to offer. They got 25,000 applications. 6,000 of those applications went straight in the bin.
Really?
Because simple questions weren't answered, or there's very poor grammar, completely silly things that have been done, or people hadn't submitted their CVs. Things which are absolutely rudimentary, really, to finding a job and holding one down. And you just think, 6,000 kids who were switched on enough to think, I'd love to have an apprenticeship with BT, and for whom it was absolutely their expectation of what was required completely misfired.
Because the employer doesn't work for
understood.
The employer doesn't work for you, you work for the employer. So ultimately they can only handhold you throughout your training, but you've got to bring your skill set, the desire that you applied for. And I think there's that whole thing at the moment. Where do you think it started? How do you think this has suddenly come about? Because obviously it's been simmering in the background. Do you think it was changes that have been made over a decade ago that's had an impact on them? Or?
Well, I think there was definite thing happening, I think, in the last decade, in the sense that we're all very focused on getting our children at 11 with good Key Stage 2 results. And then more especially when they're 16, getting the so-called 5 good GCSEs with maths and English. I mean, probably to me the most important part about that is the maths and English. I'm not so sure about the other GCSEs at all. I say that because you can't really do anything in business, even if you're a good bricklayer or you're a good carpenter, or even if you're a good hairdresser. You still need to be able to do arithmetic. Because how do you estimate how much you want?
We've got to be able to subtract.
Pay the yard or something like that. You need to know how many bricks you're going to buy, or how much aggregate you're going to buy, and cement, and those sorts of things. So you can't be good at those vocational things really without having a rudimentary knowledge of maths. You need your English so that you can write to your customers and say, dear sir, this is going to cost you such and such, and this is the area
you've got to be able to quote,
do, and all that. You've got to be able to do that, and also you've got to get on the phone and be nice to people. If you phone an inquiry line and you get someone at the other end who's sullen, not helpful, and doesn't sort of elaborate on what they've said, well, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You think, I'm never dealing with this company again. What's the point of that? And of course, if it was your own company, you'd be saying, you'd be, is there anything more I can do for you, madam? You'd be like that, wouldn't you? It's a different attitude, like a sort of glass half full attitude, really, to this doesn't really matter attitude, So there's work around that which we need to do, but then that also needs to be seen in context is that, I mean, the county has drifted probably over the past decade from being one of the best achievers to one of the less best achievers, shall we say. Don't want to use the other word, the W word, but because it's not quite as black and white as it seems on paper. You know, you have probably seen me on national television back at the end of January saying, well, hang on a sec, it's not league tables is one thing, but actually we're 5 percentage points adrift of national average. And what that means in Suffolk is this. We were talking about Key Stage 2, which tests that you take at age 11 or year 6 in school. If we manage to get one child in every primary school,
so how many children?
Typically, there's about 7,000 children at any one time, and that's spread across 200 odd schools. So you can get it works out at about 30 a class. You know, obviously some schools have got more than one class of 30. Others have got only say 15 or 10. But overall, let's just say there's a class of 30 on average. If you did that on average in every school, one child getting level 4 in both maths and English, that would take us 3 percentage points up that scale. If you got 2 children through, that would actually take us higher than national average. This is 2 children out of 30 I'm asking to.
Because that's an onus on the whole of the county. I mean, is there any specific areas within the county that could achieve that by raising their standards within one sector rather than
there's different things going on in different parts of the county, in my view. I mean, there's sometimes there's schools which perhaps recover from a period where the head teacher has not been present or you know, has retired or something like that, so there's been an interregnum, so things have got a little bit sloppy like that. In some parts of the county we've got the 3-tier system still working, and then we've got loads and loads of data to show that that doesn't perform as well at age 11 as does the 2-tier system that we've got on this side of the county. So that's why we're trying to change to the 2-tier system. A number of things go on. But then on the other hand, you have really bright sparks. We've got, we're in Ipswich now. If you look in some parts of southwest Ipswich, we've got schools there that are way above the national average. And they're serving really quite challenged areas, you know, where there's lots of deprivation or there's lots of children who don't have English as a first language. They are doing above that. So this is
that a teaching style though? Is it actually going fundamentally down to the way the teachers are responding to the young people?
Well, because
rather than the academic structure.
There's always got to be a sort of ethos of continually outperforming your previous best. You know, if you get to a certain point and say, well, we've done this well this year, we can just lay back and relax. If you do that, I'm not suggesting people deliberately do that, but there's some indications that you get to a certain point, you think we've done well this year, we don't need to do anything next year.
Because of
But actually the sort of wallpaper's changing all the time, the social wallpaper's changing. Kids are coming to school with different problems than they did even 10 years ago, let alone a generation ago. So that affects their learning. Actually, we just need to be continually reviewing and improving everything we do.
I think education as well, with that exact point in mind, it's very much looking at the whole environment around. I think it should be a flexible entity. It shouldn't be so rigid on certain things. I think if a child was allowed to go into a classroom and have fun. I saw Sister Act 2 the other day. Classic example, music class, children being really disruptive, and she turned it around because she looked at the way in which the children were acting and behaving around music, and she became a fun teacher. You know, obviously it's a film, but she went to their level and had them singing in a choir. But you know, it's engaging in the way in which the children are around them. I mean, they're very visual. Everything's so visual nowadays, isn't it?
Of course, we need
people
a broad
engage.
curriculum. I mean, you know, we're in the room now. We've got a young lady with us, but if she's just done a project on the Second World War. But like that project has covered all sorts of facets. It's talked about like the mathematics of the time. It's talked about the travel, so the sort of geography issues, the history of what happened during the war, the loneliness of children being sent away from large centres of population, to sort of billets in the countryside, which was done to try and safeguard children going forward. All those experiences, and she turned it into a PowerPoint presentation, a little bit of ICT in there. It's all written up, so she's done word processing. There's every aspect of learning you can think of. And we all had fun doing it.
Yes,
We as a family, we got behind it and got really involved. So therefore, it's an opportunity for a family to work together as well. And now that work is finished, and I think there's a review of it coming up when school returns later on this month. It'd be very interesting to see what other children manage to do, because we actually enjoy doing it.
Well, this is the thing.
But it's very engaging.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's the engagement.
And it's sort of like contributory to examinations. It's not the be-all and end-all that people make examinations out to be. But we just all learn an awful lot, and I'm sure that my own daughter learnt an awful lot through that experience. So I'm not in any way suggesting that we should just narrow the curriculum to maths and English, but they're indicators.
Yes.
And actually, you can't get through life without these simple arithmetic, simple grammatical skills.
Yeah.
Because whatever you're doing, you can be a perfect bricklayer, you can be doing this job, you can be a media expert. And if you can't draft a press release, or you can't write to customers, or you can't entertain people you want to sell airtime to, your business will fail. You can't do that. So these things are very, very important in context. And basically, I think the exam thing is a measure, because everyone's tested. I went to Holbrook Academy just before the Easter holidays, and young people there were complaining about the pressure of examination.
I was about to say, it's a lot of stress.
We are all under pressure. I mean, in a sense, I'm under pressure now, talking to you about these things, because I don't want to mess it up. I want to put a good show on, and you're the same. You're preparing. Like every day, you face stress. So I think the thing you have to do in life is to build up to it. You don't just be dropped into it when you're suddenly 15 and someone's saying, we've got GCSE next year, chaps, you better start doing some work. We need to be in a position where we start work at 11.
It's a flexible thing. I mean,
so we understand what pressure is about, and we learn what's the word, strategies to deal with it.
I think was it a decade or so ago when they had a review on the amount of homework that was being sent home for a child. It must have been a decade ago, because I think it's just before one of my godchildren went to
I think it's always going on, actually.
But they were saying that the children were having too much homework, and they shouldn't be given so much homework because it's too stressful for them. But they don't learn deadlines if you take that away. They don't learn structure. They don't learn how to time manage. There's all sorts of elements that having homework, they have to work their social life around their work. And effectively it's learning different skills. It's informal learning to a degree. But I think homework only works if they have got an environment where they can do it. Because a lot of children come from, mixed types of home life, very disruptive shift work patterns for their parents, or maybe they're predominantly with their grandparents because their parents work, and there's lots of different things. If a child can't sit and focus on their homework, then there is a problem with that, and maybe they don't perform quite so well. But I think giving the child something to do at home where the family can be engaged, like you said with your daughter's history project, you see a difference in the child. Do you think that actually does have an impact when people become more engaged with the stuff
there'll be some kids on that project who will not have done as well as, say, my daughter has done, because they've not had that opportunity of having parents there to help them and
so that child also then gets lost a little bit, doesn't it?
Support them through it. That's something which obviously I can't do very much about that, because that's every child's environment. But what we are beginning to see now is the appearance both in schools and in organisations that run alongside schools. For instance, in Felixstowe we've got level 2 youth group there. Now they are now trying to attract year 6 children, so that's children at the top of primary school, into level 2. Now they're reorganising back into the old Tesco.
Yes, I know. I saw they're going back. It's fabulous.
Which is a great piece of news, really, because it's nice and central. Everyone can get there from any part of town, really, which is good. But anyway, one of the things that they will be offering is the facility for kids to go there and do some homework, supervised. Won't be a teacher there, but it's an adult who can probably say, well, if you've got trouble with that, ask a teacher, or no, I know how to do that. I'll show you how to do it. So, and they've got IT there. In fact, one of the things that I did as sort of council locality budget is to pay for their reinstatement of their wireless broadband, so that therefore there's 6 desks there that kids will be able to use. And this is also happening in some schools, and some of the newer schools, some of the free schools in the west of the county, in the north of the county, we're beginning to see this sort of after school work.
There used to be clubs like that when I was at school.
Don't have to go home and discipline themselves to do homework, but it is something that you do really before you go off and do your social thing.
Well, we had after school classes where if you needed any extra help for an hour or two after school, if you had a particular project that was difficult, you could go and ask for help. I haven't seen that recently. Is it something that's coming back?
Well, I mean, I think project work as a whole is definitely favoured because it often embodies so many different strands of learning, so that's good stuff.